Welcome to Cosmic Sleep Science,
where glaciers hum quietly in memory and winds trace the edges of frozen plains.
Close your eyes, let your breath slow, and imagine a time when Earth was wrapped in shimmering ice.
Not the gentle warmth we feel today, but a vast, silent world, where continents were blanketed under dazzling sheets of white. Tonight, we will walk across endless steppes where mammoths once roamed, trace rivers that glimmered beneath pale auroras, and drift through forests dusted with frost. Together, we will not only see these landscapes but feel their stillness, their vastness, the slow, measured rhythm of a world held in icy embrace, carrying us gently toward rest.
Where are you right now?
Dear listener, perhaps night has settled,
and stars flicker softly outside your window,
or dawn has begun to touch your walls with quiet light. Share your moment in the comments below, so that together our voices may gather like snowflakes drifting across frozen plains.
If this journey soothes you,
if it awakens wonder in your heart, let your support flow gently by liking or subscribing.
Joining our Cosmic Sleep Science family, your presence keeps these dreams alive.
Now, settle deeper, breathe with ease, and let the day drift away.
This is not a lesson,
but a lullaby of time. Picture the Earth as it was,
thousands of years ago,
under the rain of glaciers and the soft glow of auroras.
Are you ready to step onto frozen horizons
and wander the ancient Ice Age world together? Chapter 1. Whispers of Frozen Time. Imagine the Earth wrapped in a cloak of white silence, a stage shimmering beneath the pale glow of distant stars, where the breath of time slows and the rhythm of life softens into a dream. This was the Ice Age. Not just a single winter, but a grand performance repeated again and again across deep ages. For the Earth knows cycles, turning slowly between warmth and cold, carrying memory in stone and in ice, as if whispering to itself in endless rhythm. There have been many ice ages, each one arriving like a slow tide, retreating like a gentle wave, shaping mountains and valleys, carving rivers and plains. Yet among them all, the last great moment of frozen majesty came about 20,000 years ago, when the last glacial maximum stretched its grip across the world. Imagine the continents clothed in sheets of crystal, glittering under pale suns. 30% of all the land cradled beneath ice. A third of the world hushed under white silence. In North America, the Laurentide ice sheet spread like a sleeping giant, its weight pressing the land down, its frozen breath reshaping rivers, while in Europe the ice reached southward, swallowing forests and hills, leaving only tundra and steppe. Asia too bowed under the cold hand, where mammoths walked the wind-blown plains, their shaggy forms small before the immensity of the frozen horizon. The ice was not a wall but a world, a shimmering landscape of endless ridges and valleys, cliffs of blue crystal that caught the sun and scattered it into fragile rainbows. The air thin and biting, carrying flakes of snow that had fallen not days before but centuries, pressed and preserved in layers that told the story of time itself. Imagine standing at the edge of such a sheet. Before you, a gleaming expanse stretching farther than eyes can see. Silence ringing in your ears. No bird song, no rustle of leaves, only the deep quiet of a frozen earth. And behind you, lands where life clung close to the ice line. Forests shrunken, animals moving in restless migration. People too gathered near fire, their breath rising like ghosts against the cold night. This was not a moment of stillness, but of transformation. For though the ice appeared eternal, it was alive in its own way, flowing ever so slowly, sculpting valleys,
grinding rock to dust, carrying with it the memory of ages past. And so the curtain of ice was not only a blanket of silence, but a painter's brush, reshaping the world while covering it in shining white. Yet before the world was covered in crystal, there was warmth. Golden plains stretched beneath the sun. Rivers ran free across fertile valley. Forests thick with life. The earth basked in gentle light. And the creatures of land and sky thrived in easy rhythm. Then slowly, almost imperceptibly, a change began. The tilt of the earth shifted. The path around the sun wavered in subtle dance. Milankovitch cycles weaving the fabric of time, like threads pulling the planet toward long winter. As warmth faded, snow lingered longer in the highlands. Ice that once melted each spring began to endure through summer, layer upon layer building, reflecting light back into the sky, cooling the air further, a quiet spiral deepening. And deep within the atmosphere, another voice joined the song. The breath of carbon dioxide grew faint, less of it to cradle warmth. So the chill took stronger hold, a whisper turning into a vast silence. Glaciers, once confined to polar realms, began their solemn march southward, creeping into lands of green, into valleys once alive with wildflowers, grinding stone, pushing soil, until even the mid-latitudes felt their cold embrace. Imagine great rivers frozen, fertile ground buried beneath pale deserts of snow, forests falling back step by step, life pressed into narrow corridors where the ice did not yet reach. For those who lived through it, the world became both smaller and vaster. Smaller because safe havens dwindled, vaster because the frozen landscapes stretched unbroken. A horizon without end, animals wandered farther, following the rhythm of the cold. And people learned to endure, gathering wisdom from the stars, from fire, from the patience of stone. The journey into ice was slow, not a sudden shuddering of warmth, but a gentle dimming, season by season, century by century, until the earth itself seemed to breathe in and hold. A long pause, a frozen exhale, waiting for the distant future when warmth would return. Thus, the cooling was not only a tale of numbers or cycles, but of transformation, of valleys reborn as tundra, of mountains clothed in ice, of oceans shifting their currents under cold winds. A world in transition, vast and delicate, unfolding in silence and light, as the golden earth became pale, and the song of ice began. Beneath the frozen plains, hidden deep in the heart of glaciers, lie slender columns of ice drawn from the earth like scrolls of crystal. These are ice cores, time machines carved from frozen silence, each layer a page, each bubble a breath held for centuries, as though the planet itself inhaled long ago and never exhaled. Scientists have drawn these cores from Antarctica and Greenland, reaching back more than 800,000 years, deeper than human memory, older than the rise of cities, long before the first sparks of fire lit the night. And within them lie tiny chambers of air, fragile and pure, holding the exact breath of ancient skies, captured when snow first fell and pressed into ice, now released only when the core is touched by warmth. Imagine leaning close to a sliver of ice, whisper thin, and seeing inside a bubble no larger than a grain of sand. Yet in that bubble lies the atmosphere as it was hundreds of thousands of years ago. Invisible voices preserved, waiting to speak. They reveal a story that repeats like a song. Carbon dioxide rising and falling, and with it, the breath of climate. Temperature following as faithfully as a shadow follows light. And not only air but dust drifts across these frozen pages, specks of desert carried by storms across entire continents, locked in place when the snow fell. The Sahara, speaking to Antarctica. Asia whispering to Greenland. The sky tying the world together with unseen threads of wind, each particle a messenger, telling of dryness, of shifting sands, of distant storms that crossed oceans to settle in silence on the ice. The ice remembers these journeys without a word, holding them gently, waiting through the ages. So when a core is lifted from its frozen bed, it is not just ice that is drawn up, but history itself. Layer upon layer, winter upon winter, captured in stillness. To hold such a core is to touch the quiet memory of Earth, a timeline not written in books or carved in stone, but whispered in frozen breath, delicate, patient, unbroken, and in its silence, the planet tells its story, offering us its long memory, one fragile bubble at a time. Within these crystals lies more than breath. They hold the sudden echoes of storms, the fleeting flash of lightning, the distant roar of volcanoes, frozen in place as if the Earth wished to remember not only the slow dance of climate, but also the fierce moments of fire and thunder. The isotopes in the ice speak of temperature, light and heavy forms of oxygen that shift with warmth and cold. They draw the curve of ancient winters and summers. They mark the rise and fall of ages, each variation a brushstroke on the canvas of time. So by reading them, we follow the pulse of the planet, its heartbeat measured in frozen drops. In some layers, dark lines appear, thin as a shadow. These are ashes, remnants of volcanoes that once darkened the sky. A veil of fire turned to quiet dust, settled into snow and sealed in ice. And because these eruptions spread their ash across the globe, each layer becomes a timestamp, a mark of when fire touched the heavens, when Earth's own voice roared and then hushed. So the ice is more than a mirror of air. It is a book of storms, a record of thunder and flame, of lightning frozen mid-strike, of eruptions caught mid-breath, a mystical archive where silence holds the memory of chaos. Both Greenland and Antarctica keep these archives in their depths, vast libraries of crystal pages untouched by centuries, waiting for careful hands to read them. And so humanity finds in the coldest corners of the world the warmest voices of memory, fragile yet clear. When we listen to the ice, we are not only hearing of cold, we are hearing of connection, of how a storm in one land can leave its trace in another, how the fire of a mountain can write itself across oceans, how the breath of the sky moves with gentle power, carrying stories far and wide. Thus the ice is not only frozen water, but frozen time, a crystalline memory that holds the Earth's past within it, soft yet unyielding. And in the stillness of its depths, we are reminded that the planet remembers everything, not in words, but in layers of light, breath, and ash. And so, as we close this gentle journey through frozen memory, let the whispers of ice rest softly in your thoughts. If you wish to wander further into the quiet science of sleep and the timeless stories of Earth, subscribe to Cosmic Sleep Science, and let the planet's ancient dreams carry you into rest. Chapter 2. The Shape of a Frozen World. Imagine a land where silence breathes heavier than sound, where the horizon is not broken by forests or plains, but swallowed by an endless whiteness. The great glaciers of the Ice Age stretched like celestial blankets across the face of Earth, wrapping continents in their still embrace, making the world appear less like a living planet and more like a dreaming sphere adrift in space. Across the northern reaches of North America, the Laurentide ice sheet unfurled its dominion. pressing down upon the land with a weight so immense that even mountains bowed beneath its frozen crown. Canada lay hidden under this colossal shroud, its valleys drowned in ice, its rivers silenced beneath crystalline walls. And when the winds rose, they did not scatter leaves or grasses, but only danced across fields of glittering snow, whispering to no one but the stars. Across the ocean, another giant reigned, the Eurasian ice sheet, a vast empire of frozen stone and snow that stretched from Scandinavia to the wide shoulders of Siberia. Beneath its cold breath, lakes and forests disappeared, and the world itself seemed to hold its lungs, waiting, enduring, remembering what it was like before the sky turned to steel and the ground to glass. Travelers across these lands would have seen no green horizon, no soft line of hills, only white plains that seemed without end. The thickness of the ice was unimaginable. In places, the frozen crust reached 3 kilometers deep, deeper than mountains are tall, deeper than many seas are wide, so heavy that it pressed into the bones of the earth, bending crust and carving basins that would one day cradle lakes. The land beneath was not simply covered. It was reshaped, its profile redrawn by the weight of time itself. The world beneath such glaciers was not only hidden but also forgotten. The forests that had grown there, the rivers that had flowed there, the animals that had once walked there, all erased under the silence of white. Yet this silence was not death. It was transformation. The slow, patient breath of ice that carved valleys, smoothed stone, and prepared the canvas for landscapes that would one day awaken again when the thaw returned. Thus the continents lay slumbering, North America and Eurasia each bearing their own frozen crown, gleaming under the pale sun. Vast kingdoms of silence and brilliance. The earth wearing garments of snow so immense that even the oceans shivered at their edges. And in that age, the world was not divided by fields or cities, but by the simple line where ice ended and living land began. Yet not all the frozen giants belonged to the low plains and wide continents. For in the high places, the mountains themselves wore armor of crystal, their shoulders draped in veils of snow that never melted, their valleys filled with rivers of ice that crept slowly downward, carving as they moved, shaping the land into forms both harsh and beautiful, as though the mountains were not only stone but memory made solid. In the heart of Europe, the Alps stood as guardians, their peaks crowned with glaciers that gleamed like mirrors to the sky. Within their shadows, deep valleys were etched by the advance and retreat of frozen rivers, leaving behind scars of stone, lines drawn across the land that we now call moraines, silent ridges that whisper of the edges where ancient glaciers once paused before melting back into the clouds. Far away, the Himalayas, the great spine of Asia, were also transformed, their immense ranges carrying glaciers that reached deep into hidden valleys, places where the sun touched only briefly and where silence seemed eternal. From these frozen altars, water would one day pour to nourish the great rivers of the world. But in that age they were locked, waiting, their power sealed inside crystalline vaults of ice. Where the ice moved most fiercely, it carved more than valleys. It sculpted fjords, deep, narrow inlets where sea and mountain meet, the walls sheer and towering as though cut by a chisel too large for human hands. These fjords are the living memory of glaciers, lines of poetry written not with ink but with the patient blade of frozen time. And today they remain as windows into that ancient age of cold. The mountains in their icy dress were not barren, for around them the winds carried flakes of snow that swirled like whispers of eternity. The peaks glowed pale beneath starlight, and in the stillness of that frozen age, They appeared like guardians, not of land, but of silence itself. High places where earth and sky seemed to touch, and where the boundary between stone and ice dissolved into a single shimmering truth. So the frozen world was not only spread across plains and continents, but also sewn into the very fabric of mountains. From the Alps to the Himalayas, from valleys etched with moraines to coasts reshaped into fjords, the glaciers of the Ice Age were sculptors of Earth, leaving behind forms that still speak of their passage. And though the ice has long since retreated, its fingerprints remain, carved into every ridge and every shore where the frozen giants once breathed. Beneath the stillness of the frozen age, the glaciers were not as motionless as they seemed. For though they appeared like frozen oceans pressed into silence, they were in truth alive with movement, flowing not in days or seasons, but in centuries and millennia. Each sheet of ice creeping forward like a slow breath drawn by the earth itself. Their pace measured not in footsteps, but in meters each year. A progress so patient that it could not be seen by the eye, yet so relentless that entire landscapes bowed to its passing. To watch such a river of ice would be to witness stone turned liquid without ever melting. Frozen crystal sliding over bedrock with a weight beyond imagination. Carving grooves into mountainside, smoothing ridges, deepening valleys. The land below was ground down grain by grain, as though the planet itself were sculpting its own body, shaping itself with hands made of silence and cold. And when the ice gave way to warmth, its rivers of meltwater spilled outward, threading across plains in shimmering webs, braiding and unbraiding into channels that sparkled under the pale sun. These waters were wild and restless, rushing from the frozen heart of glaciers into the waiting earth, carrying stone and soil with them, building new paths and erasing the old. Rivers of silver spun out of rivers of ice, each a fleeting song of freedom before the return of winter silence. Where glaciers lingered and then retreated, they left hollows deep and wide, some filled with water until they became inland seas. Others stretched into long blue lakes that shimmered under summer skies. Among the greatest of these gifts were the Great Lakes of North America, vast inland oceans, born from the retreat of the Laurentide ice sheet. The scars of its departure filled with liquid memory, and even today their waves still sing the story of the ice that once carved their beds. Thus the glaciers were both destroyer and creator. Rivers of ice that crushed forests and mountains, yet also rivers of stone that gave birth to waters, valleys, and lakes. Their passage was slow, hypnotic, eternal in rhythm. A movement so subtle it felt like stillness, yet so immense it carried the power to redraw the face of continents. They were rivers that did not flow with water, but with time itself, carrying the memory of cold across the endless ages of Earth. And then came the retreat. Not sudden, but slow, a long exhale of the frozen world. The glaciers that had advanced like silent giants now withdrew step by step, leaving the land uncovered, as though the earth were awakening from a long dream. Beneath the melting ice, the soil breathed again. Rivers sang again. Valleys lifted their faces to the sky, and life began to trace its first green lines across the canvas of stone. The landscapes revealed were not the same as they had been before, for the ice had carved and molded them, and its parting left behind new forms of quiet beauty. The winds carried fine dust across open plains, and where it settled, it created fertile loess soils, deep blankets of earth so rich that they would one day feed countless fields and harvests, a gift of nourishment left by the long patience of glaciers and the restless whispers of air. In hollows where great blocks of stranded ice had once rested, the melting left behind kettle lakes, small and scattered like fragments of forgotten mirrors, each one holding the sky within its still surface. each one a silent reminder of the frozen age. These waters dotted the land like beads of crystal, reflecting clouds by day and stars by night, tiny echoes of a once immense and endless cold. And in the far north, the soil itself remained locked beneath a frozen skin. The permafrost, preserving within it the memory of ancient times. In its frozen depths lay seeds and soils untouched for tens of thousands of years, as though the land itself had chosen to hold on to its past, keeping safe the traces of life and climate from an age when mammoths roamed and glaciers breathed across the horizon. Thus, the retreat of the ice was not merely an ending, but a transformation, a passage from silence into song, from white stillness into green return. The world awoke beneath the receding glaciers with new valleys, new rivers, new lakes, new soils, and though the giants of ice had vanished, their legacy remained, written into every curve of the land, every fertile field, every quiet pool that catches the sky. And so the story of the Frozen Age was one not only of covering, but of uncovering, not only of silence, but of renewal. The glaciers departed, but their touch remained eternal, sculpted into the bones of earth. A reminder that even the coldest breath of time carries within it the promise of life yet to come. Here, where the rivers of ice carved their slow music into stone, and their retreat awakened the face of earth. The frozen giants departed, but the world they left behind still carries their fingerprints. In lakes, valleys, and fertile soils, quiet reminders that the Ice Age was not only a time of silence, but also a time of becoming. Chapter 3. Creatures of the Cold Dawn. Mammoth Steppe Symphony. As the pale auroras shimmered across the endless horizon, the woolly mammoths wandered the frozen plains, gentle giants cloaked in thick coats of fur, their bodies sheathed in layers of fat that glimmered faintly in the twilight. They moved in herds, a slow symphony of massive footsteps upon the snow, each step pressing a rhythm into the silent world. Some towers of muscle reached up to 4 meters at the shoulder, tusks curling like crescent moons, ivory arcs tracing the cold air as they grazed upon the hardy grasses of the steppe, a landscape both harsh and delicate, where life pressed on with patient determination, surviving not through speed but endurance. Each mammoth a monument of resilience. Through the frozen haze, their breath rose in gentle clouds, ephemeral as dreams, mingling with the mist of distant rivers and the sparkling frost of ancient forests. And beneath the Siberian permafrost, countless mammoths wait still, preserved in ice, time holding their forms like fragile sculptures, the world remembering them in crystal silence. They were more than animals. They were icons of an age, living proof of life's capacity to endure, wandering under skies painted in greens and violets by the northern lights, herds communicating with low rumbles that echoed across valleys, a language older than human memory. And as we imagine them now, their slow grace teaches us patience, presence, and the quiet power of endurance. The mammoth steps carved patterns into snowfields, gentle yet immense, moving as one with the rhythm of the planet, their existence a story of survival and adaptation, a reminder that even in the coldest, harshest dawns, life persists, full of quiet dignity, and that every creature, large or small, leaves a trace upon the world, waiting for those who listen closely to find it. Shadowed across the frozen plains, there moved the hunters of the Ice Age, not in haste, but with silent purpose, saber-toothed cats and dire wolves tracing the rhythm of herds beneath the cold light of dawn. They were apex predators, not monsters, but echoes of balance in a frozen world, teaching the delicate art of life and death under snow-laden skies. The Smilodon, with canines reaching 18 centimeters, moved like living shadows, their teeth long and curved, capable of swift precision, yet their presence was measured. A reminder that the Ice Age thrived on cycles, on the interplay of predator and prey, and that even in danger there was a poetry, a rhythm shaped by the pulse of survival. Dire wolves, larger than the modern cousins we know, traced the edges of the steppe, their paws pressing into frost-hardened ground, ears alert, eyes glinting like polished stones in pale light. At places like La Brea tar pits, their fossils tell tales of hunts and herds, of winters long and unforgiving. Yet every shadow cast upon the snow was part of the symphony, each predator a note in the music of survival. And though their presence might have stirred unease in those who observed them closely, in the quiet imagination they become graceful actors on the frozen stage, moving in harmony with the rhythm of the land, their movements precise, calculated, never reckless, illustrating the balance of life that allowed both hunters and herds to coexist across vast, icy landscapes. The plains themselves seemed to hum beneath the footfalls of hunters and grazers alike, the aurora painting fleeting murals above, and in the pale light, the dance continued, mammoths grazing, wolves prowling, smilodons slipping like shadows, all participating in a gentle yet grand symphony, a story written in frost and breath, a melody preserved not only in fossils, but in the quiet imagination of anyone who listens to the echo of the Ice Age. Gentle giants and hidden survivors. Beyond the open steppe, the Ice Age held quieter giants, slow-moving beings who wandered the shadowed forests and frozen valleys. Ground sloths towering at 4 meters, their limbs stretching with deliberate grace, their silhouettes gentle against the pale sky, lumbering through the snow-laden trees as though the world itself had slowed to match their rhythm. Nearby, mastodons preferred the shelter of forests. Vast forms clothed in shaggy hair, their tusks curving like ancient branches, feeding on frozen branches and hardy foliage. Their presence both protective and serene, moving with a quiet majesty that contrasted the open plains. Their lives intertwined with the rhythm of ice and wood. Despite their great size, they were delicate in their own way, careful with each step upon frozen ground, leaves crunching beneath heavy feet, breath rising like soft clouds into the crisp morning air. And beneath the surface of time, DNA reveals that mastodons share closer kinship with elephants than many realize. A silent lineage stretching across continents and millennia. Imagine a forest scene bathed in pale green and silver light, where sloths reach slowly for high branches, mastodons pause to sniff the air, and snowflakes settle upon backs and tusks. A world where movement is measured, patient, and the enormity of these creatures does not threaten but inspires awe. Each giant a symbol of endurance, each pause a meditation. Their quiet rhythm echoes through the icy forests, teaching balance in motion and stillness. The gentle giants reminding us that not all strength comes from speed or aggression. Some comes from patience, persistence, and the calm acceptance of the slow passage of time, in which survival is a story told not with haste, but with steady steps and quiet observation. Through centuries of frost and snow, these lumbering beings carried the story of adaptation. Their very existence a bridge between past and present, a living testament to the variety of life that once thrived when the world was wrapped in ice. A delicate symphony of strength and gentleness, reminding us that in quiet persistence there is beauty and wisdom. Amid the giants, the Ice Age nurtured small resilient species, creatures whose lives unfolded close to the snow, warm and intimate in their adaptations, their fur thick and soft, their movements careful, teaching us that survival often blooms in subtle ways, unnoticed by the casual observer. Musk oxen, for example, endured the icy plains, their coats forming blankets of warmth that carried them into the present, a living memory of frozen winters, while reindeer adapted their vision to the dim light of long polar nights, seeing the world with eyes tuned to shadow and twilight, navigating landscapes painted in silver and gray. Arctic hares shed and regrew coats to blend with snow and stone, a delicate camouflage that allowed life to flourish where cold could have claimed it. Hopping gently across frozen field, ears alert, nose twitching, small breaths visible in crisp air, their presence a soft heartbeat amidst the vast white. These survivors remind us that resilience often comes in the smallest forms, that life finds a way even in extremes, weaving warmth and ingenuity into fur, eyes, and instinct. Each adaptation a whisper of patience and intelligence, each quiet movement a testament to the persistence of life in a world wrapped in ice. Imagine a landscape where the soft glow of dawn falls upon musk oxen grazing, reindeer stepping with delicate precision across frosted ground, Arctic hares pausing to sniff the wind, all creatures moving in harmony with the rhythm of the frozen environment. A miniature symphony unfolding against the backdrop of grand glaciers and towering trees. In observing these small but mighty beings, we learn not only about adaptation but about subtle beauty, about the delicate threads that bind survival to environment, about the quiet courage required to persist through endless winter. And as the Ice Age slowly recedes in memory, these creatures remain as living echoes, gentle reminders that even the coldest dawns give rise to life that endures. And so, the story of the Ice Age is not only about towering mammoths or mighty predators, but also about these intimate survivors, the ones who teach us that warmth, resilience, and life persist in the quietest corners of a frozen world. May the gentle giants and resilient small creatures of the Ice Age rest softly in your thoughts, carrying you into calm reflection and serene dreams. And for more journeys through the quiet wonders of our planet, subscribe to Cosmic Sleep Science and let Earth's ancient stories lull you into rest. Chapter 4: Human Footprints in Frost. Part 1. Firelight in the Glacial Night. In the long glacial nights, when the wind whispered across endless plains and the snow lay thick as untouched silk, fire became a quiet miracle, a life-giver flickering softly within Kao, casting golden light that danced across walls and stones. A small warmth that held back the cold and the dark. Humans discovered controlled fire more than 400,000 years ago, and in its glow, they found more than heat. They found safety, comfort, and companionship. The flames illuminating faces, reflecting in eyes, making the cold world shrink into a circle of warmth. A small sanctuary against the vast white silence outside. Around the fires, they constructed shelters of mammoth bones, mighty frames woven with hides and sinew, crude yet elegant in their design. Each hut a testament to ingenuity, each spark from the hearth a song of survival. Soft shadows flickering across walls where stories would soon be told, shaping memory and community in the quiet of frozen nights. Clothing, carefully sewn from hides, wrapped around shoulders and legs, sinew threads binding layers of warmth, protecting delicate skin from frost and wind. The careful stitching a meditation in itself, a rhythm born of necessity, patience, and an intimate connection to the animals that shared their world. In these intimate circles of firelight, Humans observed the night sky, watched the auroras flicker, and whispered plans for tomorrow, each flame a bridge between survival and imagination, each glow a mirror of human perseverance, reminding us that even in the coldest darkness, life finds a way to shine, gentle yet persistent. And as the fire crackled, the frozen world outside seemed less daunting, snow sparkling like distant stars, shadows of mammoths and hunters cast upon icy walls, the cold softened by human ingenuity, a quiet pulse of life beating steadily within the cave. Fire was not only warmth but story, not only survival but comfort, a glowing heart within the vast glacial night. And in its embrace, humans learned the rhythm of life, the poetry of persistence, and the quiet magic of turning frost into a space of safety, illumination, and connection. Alongside fire, another tool shaped human existence, the gentle craft of stone. Flakes struck carefully to form sharp edges, sparks rising in twilight as blades were fashioned. Not in haste, but in rhythm, each fragment a bridge between human hands and survival. Upper Paleolithic tools advanced skillfully, spear points elongated, scrapers honed to perfection, each object a testament to intelligence, patience, and observation of the natural world. Each stone a companion in the delicate task of navigating ice and snow. Spear throwers extended the reach of hunters, allowing them to strike across frozen plains, connecting humans with the herds that roamed in distant shadows. A subtle but profound mastery of environment, a gentle extension of human capability in a world shaped by frost and wind. And within the same cave, art emerged on walls, quiet depictions of hunts and beasts, mammoths rendered in flowing lines, predators frozen in mid-leap, traces of ochre and charcoal preserved for millennia, soft whispers of creativity illuminating survival. The act of shaping stone and drawing on walls was meditation as much as necessity. Each spark, each mark a rhythm that connected mind, hand, and world. A slow unfolding of understanding and memory, a record of existence in a frozen age. Imagine a circle of humans around a fire, hands moving carefully over stones, eyes glinting with reflected light, children watching quietly, elders guiding with gentle instruction, while outside, wind sweeps across ice plains, and the aurora dances above. Tools and fire together created not only survival but intimacy, comfort, and culture, a gentle testament to human ingenuity, patience, and artistry. And as we picture them now, the flickering flames and sharp-edged stones teach us that even in the coldest nights, life finds warmth in both body and spirit. Through fire and stone, humans shaped not only their world but themselves, leaving footprints in frost that echo across millennia, reminding us that ingenuity, care, and creativity are the subtle lights that guide life through dark and frozen times. Across frozen seas of white, humans embarked on journeys of patience and quiet determination, following herds, tracing footprints upon snow bridges that stretched between continents, the world vast and silent, each step pressing rhythm into ice, carrying warmth of life into lands untouched by their presence. The Bering Land Bridge opened a path between Asia and the Americas, a frozen corridor under pale skies, where humans moved slowly, deliberately, adapting to each step upon the icy terrain, eyes scanning horizons, hands crafting tools, bodies wrapped in hides stitched with sinew to hold against the cold. They followed herds of mammoths and bison, learning patterns, reading the signs in snow and wind, tracking life through frozen landscape, the rhythm of hunting intertwined with rhythm of survival. patience blending with instinct. Each journey a meditation upon endurance and resilience. Tundra diets shaped their bodies and habits. Roots, berries, meat, and marrow providing nourishment in a world that demanded both observation and care. Learning to read the land as intimately as one reads a familiar home. Each new day a lesson in adaptation, a quiet triumph over the vast silence. Imagine footsteps stretched across snowy plains, sunlight reflecting off ice crystals, distant mountains standing like sentinels, and human figures moving steadily, shadows stretching and blending with the frosted world. Each step soft yet deliberate, a testament to ingenuity and quiet courage. Through these migrations, humans transformed the frozen world into a living map of their resilience. Each step a gentle imprint upon ice, connecting continents and eras, reminding us that even in the most inhospitable places, life can carry itself forward with patience, skill, and the quiet warmth of determination. Yet survival alone was not enough to fill the long nights. Culture became the fire that warmed human hearts, echoing softly in caves where shadows danced. A tender rhythm of art, music, and shared stories, linking minds across generations, whispering continuity into frozen silence. In Lascaux and other Paleolithic cave, paintings emerged 17,000 years ago. Walls adorned with mammoths, bison, and humans engaged in the delicate dance of hunting and life, pigments glowing faintly under flickering torches. A luminous record of imagination and memory. Venus figurines, carved with careful hands, symbolized fertility and continuity, soft curves reflecting hope and reverence. The smallest pieces of clay or bone carrying meaning across time, each one a meditation upon life and its persistence. And music arose in the quiet of these frozen lands, bone flutes producing haunting melodies, the oldest known instruments filling caves with gentle sound, resonating softly with footsteps, heartbeats, and the rhythm of fire, creating a bridge between survival and spirit, between body and imagination. Picture a circle of humans around a small fire within a cave, the walls alive with painted animals, the air filled with soft notes from a flute, whispered stories of hunts and herds, of distant lands and frozen horizons, warmth spreading through shared presence, a gentle healing for both body and mind. Culture became the subtle light that allowed humans to endure long nights, the melodies, images, and figurines forming a delicate web of comfort, identity, and understanding, reminding us that even in ice and darkness, tenderness, creativity, and connection can flourish. Through migration and culture, humans left their footprints not only upon the frozen earth, but upon memory itself. Each step and each song a quiet testament to resilience, imagination, and warmth. And as we listen to their stories now, we are reminded that the heart of humanity glows brightest in the coldest night. May the footsteps, songs, and art of ancient humans rest gently in your thoughts, carrying you into calm reflection and serene dreams. And for more journeys across time and frozen landscapes, subscribe to Cosmic Sleep Science and let the whispers of our ancestors guide you into rest. Chapter 5. Winds, Seas, and Frozen Skies. The Ice Age sky was alive with motion even when the land lay silent under its frozen crown. Cold winds traveled like invisible rivers across the tundra, rushing low and swift, their paths unseen but their voices carried through the bending grasses and the hollow air. They were not gentle breezes, but currents shaped by a world colder than our own. The jet streams that circle the planet today shifted far to the south, drawing their lines across places that now feel mild, but then were touched each season by icy breath. These winds carved more than sound. They carried dust, fine grains lifted from bare plains where little grew. The storms came often, lifting earth into veils that darkened the horizon. Over centuries, this restless dance of air and soil built great deposits. One of the largest gifts of this movement lies in China, where layers upon layers of wind-blown dust settled into the lush plateaus, pale and fertile, waiting for the warmth of later ages to turn them into the breadbaskets of human life. In this age of shifting currents, the air itself was different, colder and sharper. The weight of atmosphere felt closer to the skin. The clouds that formed from the breath of oceans were carried farther, their journeys redirected by the new paths of the jet streams. Storms reached places that had once been calm, while others fell into silence. The sky above was not fixed but rewritten, each season telling a story of change in invisible letters traced by the wind. To walk upon the tundra then would have been to walk in a world where the air was never still, where the horizon itself seemed to sway under the currents. Snow and dust together painted the air, and the silence of the land was broken only by the whispers of the sky. The winds moved as memory, carrying with them the touch of ice, the scent of frozen seas, the fine breath of deserts made not of sand but of dust born from glacial grinding. A world sculpted as much by air as by stone. Yet above the white continents, the sky was not only a place of winds, but also a theater of falling snow, each flake a feather of the sky drifting down with silent grace. Year by year these feathers gathered, layering upon one another, until ice sheets grew thicker by a mere centimeter each year. Yet over centuries this slow accumulation became mountains of frozen time, entire landscapes hidden beneath their weight. The gentle fall of snow shaping continents as surely as the hardest stone. But not everywhere was softened by snow, for even in the cold there were deserts. Polar deserts where the air was too dry to give birth to clouds, where the ground lay bare beneath a pale sun, a silence deeper even than the tundra. These places were oceans of frost without storms. Reminders that even in an age of ice there were places where the sky gave nothing. Only emptiness stretched across a frozen floor. In the far south of the world, another kind of wind ruled. The katabatic winds of Antarctica, born from the sheer weight of cold air sliding down the slopes of the ice sheet, rushing toward the sea with a force that could strip snow from the ground and carve shapes into the very ice. These winds were not whispers but roars, invisible avalanches of air, and yet even they were part of the rhythm of the frozen earth, keeping balance in a system vast and strange. To stand beneath this sky would have been to live within a dream both fragile and immense, to see clouds gather like breath and dissolve into endless snowfall, to watch winds carve and scatter dust across continents, to feel the silence of deserts and the fury of Antarctic storms, each part of the atmosphere moving in harmony with the frozen world below. The ice-age sky was not empty but filled with motion and memory, each current and each feather of snow a thread in the fabric of a world reshaped by cold. While the continents wore their crowns of ice, the oceans also changed their shape. The seas withdrew as if drawn back into the heart of the earth, their levels lowered by 120 meters, leaving behind coastlines that now lie hidden beneath waves. To walk upon the world then was to see continents larger than they are today, their bones exposed in silence, stretching outward into what is now the deep. Where water had once covered coral gardens, the reefs stood dry, their colors long gone, their skeletons bleached and brittle beneath the cold air. They were monuments waiting for the sea to return, silent cathedrals of stone that had once been alive with fish and light. now standing in emptiness like ruins scattered across the edge of a forgotten shore. Along the margins of every continent, vast continental shelves emerged, plains of sand and rock that the ocean had hidden for ages. They glimmered in moonlight and stretched toward the horizon. New lands that were not mountains or valleys, but wide-open spaces carved by tides long ago. In these places, herds of animals could wander where now only currents flow, connecting lands that today are separated by water, bridges of earth that shaped the journeys of early life and later the paths of humankind. The coastlines of the Ice Age world were stranger than ours. The seas pulled back to reveal hidden maps, shorelines traced not where they stand today, but far out into what we now call ocean. Every bay deeper, every gulf wider, every island larger. The planet itself seemed to hold its breath, revealing secrets that would soon vanish again when the ice melted and the seas returned. Thus, the oceans of the Ice Age were not only waters, but also absences, empty spaces where water had retreated, exposing the bones of the earth. These lands were temporary gifts, shimmering under the pale sun and moon, a reminder that the world is never fixed, that the shapes of continents are as fluid as the tides themselves, and that beneath the waves lie forgotten landscapes waiting in silence. Yet even as the seas pulled back, their waters were not still. The currents that weave through the deep continued their slow circulation. But they too were changed, for the Ice Age pressed upon them as firmly as it pressed upon the land. The great conveyor of salt and heat that we call the thermohaline circulation shifted, slowed, and in some places broke. The oceans are the heartbeat of the earth, and in those cold millennia, the rhythm faltered. When glaciers melted in sudden pulses, they poured fresh water into the seas, lighter than salt and restless in motion. This flood disrupted the balance of current, and with each great surge, the climate itself quivered, warming abruptly in some regions, cooling in others, as though the oceans were breathing unevenly, exhaling in gasps rather than steady sighs. The earth responding not with calm but with abrupt change. One of these moments is remembered as the Younger Dryas, a sudden return to cold after warmth had begun to bloom. The oceans had shifted their song, currents altered by meltwater streams, and the lands that had felt the touch of spring were drawn once more into frost. The world learning again that the line between warmth and ice was thin, fragile, and easily crossed. The oceans beneath the ice were not passive. They were vast and alive, carrying heat across hemispheres, dictating where storms would form and where rains would fall, guiding winds and shaping the fate of every continent. They were the deep voice beneath the whisper of snow, the hidden hand that turned the wheel of seasons, slow in their power but capable of sudden and startling change. To stand upon the shore then would have been to feel a different ocean, quieter on its surface but troubled in its depths, the tides rising and falling as they always had, yet carrying within them the shifting pulse of a world in transformation. The sea was mirror and memory both, holding the sky above and the ice upon the land, and within its depths, the story of the Ice Age was written in currents, tides, and silence. And so we leave the skies and seas of the Ice Age, where winds whispered across tundra, snow fell like feathers, and oceans breathed with a broken rhythm beneath the ice, shaping continents and climates alike. If you wish to drift deeper into these worlds of frozen memory, subscribe to Cosmic Sleep Science, where the Earth dreams and you may dream with it. Chapter 6. Retreat of the Glaciers. In the quiet aftermath of the Ice Age, the glaciers began their slow retreat, colossal rivers of ice crumbling with melancholic grandeur, each collapse echoing like the fading note of an ancient song. The world transformed beneath the soft light of a warming sun. The Laurentide ice sheet, once stretching across North America like a frozen ocean, receded 10,000 years ago, leaving behind valleys carved in patient labor, cliffs and ridges softened by time, and massive meltwater lakes shimmering where ice once pressed, their surfaces reflecting skies in delicate blues and silvers. Among these waters, Lake Agassiz rose and fell, spilling vast floods into rivers that traced new paths across the land. The movement slow but unstoppable, reshaping continents, carving gentle channels through plains, depositing silt and stones that would nurture life in centuries to come. Imagine the ice collapsing like the walls of ancient cathedrals, towers of crystal and snow tumbling into themselves, cracks spreading across glacial plains, streams of water weaving through the rubble. A silent grandeur in each motion, vast yet tender, echoing the slow passage of time. The retreat was not sudden but gradual, measured in centuries, each melting block revealing soils and rocks held for millennia. Life creeping slowly behind the edge of retreat, mosses and lichens appearing first, then grasses, each new green a whisper of hope against the pale, empty canvas left by the glaciers. And in this process, the world shifted. Valleys filled with lakes, hills uncovered, and the immense scale of ice receding created landscapes both humbling and intimate, reminding us that even the greatest giants yield to time, and in their passing, they leave the seeds for rebirth and renewal. From the melting giants emerged new landscapes, gentle plains greening under the soft warmth of the sun, tundra giving way to forests, the rhythm of life returning slowly to land that had been bound in ice for millennia. The Great Plains unfolded across central North America, rolling expanses of grassland replacing frozen barrens, rivers tracing new paths, fertile soils waiting for the first inhabitants to discover and cultivate, a quiet rebirth of Earth's canvas. In Scandinavia, land once pressed down by ice slowly rebounded, rising like a gentle exhalation, fjords and valleys appearing, forests spreading across slopes, lakes forming in newly hollowed basins, a soft tapestry of renewal after the weight of glacial centuries. Tundra transformed into forests as trees took root where snow once dominated. Birches, pines, and his spruces climbing into light, the air filled with new sounds, the whispers of wind through leaves replacing the hush of ice. A gentle reminder that life always follows retreating cold. Imagine a landscape awakening, pale greens merging with soft blues of rivers and lakes, sunlight illuminating the delicate textures of moss, grass, and young trees, animals tentatively exploring new pastures, birds singing in the calm of a world reborn. The retreat of glaciers was a story of patience, slow transformation, and tender emergence. Each thawed valley and each river bend a meditation on time and endurance, a melancholic yet hopeful dance between ice and life, teaching that endings carry the quiet promise of beginnings. And as the world warmed, plains, forests, and lakes became spaces of life once more, landscapes shaped by ice yet softened by sun and wind. A gentle invitation to reflect on the resilience of Earth and the enduring rhythm of natural change. As glaciers faded, so too did the giants of the Ice Age, leaving vast empty steppes where mammoths and mastodons once wandered in measured grace, the silence stretching across plains that had been alive with movement, now hushed, a quiet elegy for life that has passed. Mammoths, the towering icons of frozen landscapes, disappeared by 4,000 years ago, leaving only traces in permafrost and memory, their absence felt in the stillness of grasslands and the echoes of distant rivers. A gentle reminder that even the mightiest creatures are bound by the rhythms of climate and time. Scholars debate the role of humans in this fading. The subtle pressure of hunting intertwined with natural stresses, while climate change reshaped vegetation, shrinking the abundance of food that once sustained herds. A soft lament written into the soil and snow of retreating lands. Imagine the steppe now empty, the aurora casting pale light on frozen grasses, the wind whispering across silent valleys, the shadows of giants lingering only in imagination, tusks buried beneath sediments, bones glinting faintly when uncovered. A haunting yet tender landscape of memory. Vegetation once lush in pockets, now thinned under warmer skies. Streams meandering quietly where herds had crossed. The earth holding both loss and renewal in fragile balance, teaching us that extinction is not sudden, but a slow, gentle fading, and that memory, imagination, and observation preserve the presence of what has gone. The quiet steppes offer reflection, a time to honor the passage of life and the resilience of ecosystems, a delicate space where emptiness holds meaning, where absence can carry its own beauty, and where the lessons of vanished giants echo softly into the human heart. Yet as the Ice Age giants faded, humans adapted, finding hope in the warmth of a changing world, exploring new landscapes, planting seeds in soil once frozen, learning to cultivate, and transforming open tundra into fields that would sustain communities for generations. Agriculture emerged as a gentle revolution, with early grains sown carefully, tending soils, observing the rhythms of sun and rain. The Natufian culture among the first to farm, shaping life not only through survival but through patient care and observation. Connecting humans intimately with the land, villages formed, clusters of homes rising where once the wind swept freely, smoke curling from hearths, people living in measured harmony with the new temperate world, crafting tools, domesticating animals, and establishing rhythms that mirrored the gentle pulse of the seasons. Fields of grain replaced frozen tundra, the earth yielding its bounty to human hands, sun warming soil and crops, rivers nurturing young shoots, a soft green spreading across landscapes once austere, echoing with the hope of continuity and growth. Imagine small communities waking to warm light, children running through emerging fields, elders tending gardens, flutes and soft songs drifting through the air, the sound of shared work blending with the whisper of wind through grain. A tender tableau of human perseverance and ingenuity. Humans learn to shape not only survival but culture, to turn the retreat of ice into opportunity, to build life where frost had reigned, carrying the echoes of past landscapes within them while creating new ones, teaching us that adaptability, care, and hope flourish when met with gentle observation and effort. And as we reflect on this transition, from the quiet disappearance of giants to the emergence of cultivated fields and villages, we see the enduring rhythm of earth and humanity intertwined. A story of endings that carry beginnings, of loss that fosters adaptation, and of warmth and hope blossoming across once frozen horizons. May the memory of Ice Age giants and the gentle emergence of human life rest softly in your thoughts, carrying you into calm reflection and peaceful dreams. And for more journeys through time, landscapes, and the whispers of our planet, subscribe to Cosmic Sleep Science and let the ancient world guide you into rest. Chapter 7. Lessons in Ice and Time. Ice is more than frozen water. It is a teacher of patience, a keeper of rhythms too vast for human eyes, To look at a glacier is to look at time itself made visible, to see the slow breathing of the earth, each advance of the ice like an inhale, each retreat like an exhale, the world drawing breath not in minutes or hours, but in spans of thousands of years. Glacial cycles rise and fall in patterns that stretch across 100,000 years. Long arcs of cold and warmth shaping the surface of continents and the stories of life. These cycles are not random. They are guided by the turning of the planet, by its eccentric orbit that stretches and contracts, by its tilt that leans toward or away from the sun, by its slow precession like a spinning top shifting its balance. Together these motions form the metronome of the ice, a rhythm ancient and unbroken. When the ice grows, it does so in silence, snowflake by snowflake, year after year, and when it recedes, it does so with equal patience, melting back not in a moment but across centuries, rivers forming, valleys awakening, forests returning where once only cold reigned. In this way, the earth speaks not of urgency but of endurance, a reminder that the pace of nature is not the pace of human desire. And so when we measure our own stories against these cycles, we find how small our span is. The entire history of human civilization, from its first fields to its tallest cities, fits into only the briefest pause in the breathing of ice. Our lives are no more than a flicker in the shadow of these vast rhythms. We are young compared to the glaciers. Our history only a whisper set against their song. Yet it is in this contrast that the lesson lies. The patience of ice is not meant to diminish us, but to remind us, to show us that the earth moves in cycles greater than our own, and that by listening we can learn to see beyond the present moment. The glaciers carry the memory of ages we never saw, and in their frozen silence they keep teaching us how to measure time, not in days, but in eternities. But if the ice teaches patience, it also teaches impermanence. For no climate lasts forever, and even the coldest winter gives way to thaw. The snowflake that drifts so gently from the sky is destined to melt, its perfection vanishing into water. And in that small truth we glimpse the greater story of Earth, that nothing endures unchanged. The interglacials, those warmer intervals between ice ages, last only about 10,000 years, brief openings of warmth in a long procession of cold. And it is within one of these fleeting windows that all of human history has unfolded. Our fields, our homes, our languages, all of them born in this fragile breath of time. A reminder that the stability we feel is only temporary, borrowed from the larger cycle of ice. If the rhythms of Earth continue as they have for millions of years, then the next ice age should arrive in about 50,000 years. A distant horizon to us, yet only another step in the turning of the planet. But even this rhythm has now been altered, for the carbon we have released into the air delays the breath of ice, pushing back its return, reshaping cycles that once seemed untouchable by human hands. The lesson of impermanence is not meant to unsettle but to awaken, to remind us that the world is always changing, that no age is final, that the warmth we know today is as temporary as the cold that came before it. Snowflakes melt, glaciers rise and fall, climates shift like seasons written in stone, and through it all the earth continues, breathing in silence, teaching us that beauty lies not in permanence, but in the gentle passing of all things. Through the long winters of the Ice Age, it was not only the glaciers that endured, it was also humanity, fragile yet resilient. Small groups of people finding ways to live in a world where cold ruled the land. Their strength was not in size or in speed, but in cooperation, in the weaving together of families and tribes, in the sharing of food and fire, in the songs and stories that carried warmth where the sun could not reach. When the winds howled across empty plains and snow lay heavy upon the ground, it was the circle of people gathered close that gave light. Hands building shelters from bone and hide, voices guiding each other through darkness. In this way, survival was not a solitary act, but a collective one. The human gift was not only to endure, but to endure together. And in this gift we carried forward the memory of resilience. New tools emerged in those frozen ages, shaped from stone, bone, and imagination. Tools to hunt the great beasts of the plains. Tools to carve hides into clothing. Tools to kindle sparks into flames. Each innovation a step carved against the cold. Each one a reminder that necessity awakens creativity, that within hardship lies the seed of invention. And it was through these humble instruments that humanity continued to walk its path beneath the frozen sky. And when the ice began to retreat, life returned not only for us, but for all living things. The great rebounding of biodiversity unfolded across continents. Forests spread where tundra once stretched. Rivers sang where silence had held sway. And animals, new and old, found their place in the green world that followed. The earth renewed itself as surely as it had once withdrawn into stillness, reminding us that even after the hardest winters, the season of growth will come. Thus, the story of human resilience in the Ice Age is also the story of Earth's resilience. We survived not because the world was easy, but because it was difficult. Not because the path was straight, but because it bent through hardship. And in learning to walk it together, we became more than survivors. We became keepers of hope, carrying forward the lesson that life can endure even the longest night of cold. The cycles of ice are not only lessons of endurance, they are also lullabies, gentle rocking of the earth between cold and warmth, like the rising and falling of tides across ages too vast for the eye. The glaciers advance, they retreat. The world inhales, it exhales. And in this rhythm, we hear the heartbeat of our planet. Steady, patient, unhurried. Though harsh, these rhythms gave rise to beauty. The sculpting of valleys, the shining of fjords, the spreading of fertile soils, all born from the hand of ice. What seemed at first only destruction was in truth creation. A balance of giving and taking, of erasing and remaking. The glaciers sang their lullaby not in words, but in forms carved into stone and soil. A music of patience and transformation. To stand before a glacier even today is to feel this awe. To see in its slow movement a power beyond scale. A silence that holds within it the memory of ages. The presence of something older than history and more enduring than any single life. Glaciers remind us that the earth is not only our home, but also our teacher, shaping us not with sudden storms, but with the gentle persistence of time. In the end, the story of ice is not one of fear, but of wonder. A reminder that we are part of a larger rhythm. That our lives are notes in a song that began long before us, and will continue long after. The lullabies of the earth are sung in snow and sea, in wind and stone. And if we listen closely, we may find peace in knowing that we too are carried within the rocking of this ancient cradle. And so the glaciers speak across time, of patience, impermanence, resilience, and wonder. Their cycles are not merely cold seasons, but deep lessons written in the language of Earth. If you wish to dream deeper with these stories of ice and time, subscribe to Cosmic Sleep Science, and let the planet's lullabies guide you into rest. Chapter 8. Dreaming of Frozen Horizons. Across the vastness of time, Earth moves like a silent dancer, turning through frozen ages. Each ice age, a measured step in a rhythm that stretches across millions of years. The Quaternary period defined by cycles of ice and thaw, a cosmic pattern in which continents wear blankets of snow and glaciers carve their slow, patient paths. Over the past 2.6 million years, glaciations came and went, great sheets of ice advancing and retreating, shaping valleys, mountains, and rivers, painting the world with ice and frost. And between these frozen chapters, fleeting interglacial moments appear, windows of warmth where life awakens. Rivers flow freely, and the delicate pulse of nature allows seeds, forests, and creatures to flourish. Imagine the earth spinning beneath stars, its surface alternating between white expanses and green valleys. Each cycle a graceful turn, glaciers creeping like slow dancers across the stage of continents, carving and sculpting, while creatures and early humans respond with their own subtle movements, adapting, surviving, and learning the rhythm of ice and thaw. In these interludes, life finds space to grow. Civilizations slowly rise on fertile plains, rivers carrying nutrients to field, warm sun nurturing early forests and the creatures within. The planet holding each frozen step as part of an eternal choreography, a quiet reminder that even in cold and stillness, movement persists. And even in ice, the promise of life endures. The cosmic dance of ice ages teaches us patience and resilience, a meditation upon time and adaptation, a gentle cadence of cold and warmth, a continuous turning in which Earth balances frozen silence with bursts of life, the long arc of glacial rhythm shaping not only landscapes, but the very possibility of human and ecological flourishing. As glaciers advance and retreat, as ice sheets rise and fall, we are reminded of the impermanence of conditions, the beauty of cyclical change, and the quiet wonder of a planet that moves with deliberate grace, turning through frozen horizons and soft interludes, each step a whisper of Earth's eternal dance, a song of time written in frost and stone. And in this reflection, we see that ice ages are not endings but movements in a larger pattern, each cold chapter followed by warmth, each frozen expanse yielding to light. And through this cosmic rhythm, we glimpse the steady heartbeat of a planet that endures, shapes, and nurtures across epochs, a dance both immense and intimate, majestic yet gentle. After the long chapters of ice, the Holocene arrives as a lull, a soft pause between frozen movements, a peaceful interlude where Earth breathes warmth into valleys, rivers, and plains, and human eyes first see the gentleness of stable seasons. The present age, known as the Holocene, opens a time of calm, where glaciers have retreated and lands are free for forests, grasslands, and rivers to thrive. The climate steady enough to allow the delicate labor of farming, seeds planted in patient rows, water nurturing sprouting grains, a rhythm of life that mirrors the slow unfolding of seasons. Across fertile lands, early civilizations emerge, villages forming near rivers, humans learning to cultivate and domesticate, to build and to dream. The stability of climate offering space for artistry, trade, and culture to bloom. A contrast to the harsh frozen past, a gentle chapter in the ongoing story of Earth. Imagine sunlight warming the soil where ice once lingered, rivers reflecting soft skies, communities growing quietly, children playing among crops, smoke curling from small hearths, a landscape alive with both human and ecological life. The lull of Holocene carrying the promise of continuity and growth. The Holocene reminds us that time is not only measured in cycles of cold and ice, but also in moments of stillness and nurture. that the warmth between frozen chapters is a delicate gift, a chance for life to recover, flourish, and prepare for whatever turns the cosmic dance may bring. And in this interlude, humans learn that survival is coupled with observation, adaptation, and patience, that civilizations rise not in haste, but in harmony with the gentle pulse of stable climates. The rivers, soils, and sun guiding every step. Each day a meditation on growth and resilience. Through the Holocene, the earth whispers its soft rhythm, a lull between ice ages, a time for forests to extend, rivers to widen, and humans to dream and build. A peaceful chapter in the eternal dance of frozen horizons, a reminder that life always finds a way to move gracefully through the rhythm of time. In quiet dreams of frozen horizons, the giants of the Ice Age drift gently into memory. Mammoths wandering softly through imagined plains, their massive forms moving with slow grace, tusks curving beneath auroras that shimmer like distant fires. A tender echo of worlds now vanished. On Wrangel Island, a small herd of mammoths survived until 2000 BC, their presence a lingering note of resilience at the edge of extinction, reminding us that even in the harshest climates, life can hold on, and that each lost giant leaves behind a whisper of wonder and awe. Cave walls, adorned with ochre and charcoal, immortalize these creatures, flowing lines capturing movement, life, and presence, a soft record of species and the humans who revered them, a bridge across millennia, carrying both memory and imagination into our own reflections. Today, DNA research seeks to glimpse them again, fragments of past lives preserved in time, a gentle attempt to connect with those who have vanished, to dream alongside them, and to honor the beauty and fragility of life that once walked beneath the glacial sun. Imagine drifting through these dreamscapes. Mammoths, as silent companions, snow glinting under pale light, distant mountains standing sentinel, soft winds carrying the echo of steps and breath. A nostalgic yet soothing journey where extinction becomes a gentle story of memory and reverence. In this dream, the Ice Age is not lost but present in imagination, in science, in art. Each frozen giant a meditation on impermanence and wonder, teaching patience and reflection, and reminding us that even as worlds change and creatures vanish, their essence lingers quietly in our thoughts. Through this gentle farewell, we learn to carry loss with grace, to honor vanished worlds without sorrowful weight, to imagine mammoths walking softly through memory, and to feel the tender rhythm of time as it carries both endings and remembrance across frozen horizons. Even as the Ice Age recedes into history, today's glaciers stand as fragile yet eternal reminders, great sheets of ice stretching across polar landscapes, holding the memory of millennia in their slow, gleaming presence. Polar ice sheets remain, vast and silent, their surfaces reflecting the muted sky, the gentle creak and crack of ice a quiet song of time, a meditation on the scale and persistence of Earth, and the delicate balance that sustains life across continents. Yet glaciers are receding today, melting slowly under the warmth of changing climates. Rivers swelling with runoff, landscapes transformed, a reminder that even the most enduring forms are sensitive to shifts in balance, that the rhythm of nature is both beautiful and fragile. Imagine standing at the edge of a glacier, soft wind brushing past, ice cliffs glowing in pale light, fragments of ancient snow tumbling into streams. A gentle close to the era of frozen giants. A whisper of eternity in every crystal and fissure. This delicate balance of climate, ice, And life reminds us to move gently with the world, to observe, reflect, and care, understanding that our actions ripple through ecosystems that have endured millions of years of cycles, and that the stories of glaciers are intertwined with the story of humanity itself. As ice melts and mountains are revealed, as rivers carve new paths, we glimpse the echo of ancient time, the heartbeat of the Ice Age still present in every creaking glacier and shimmering sheet, teaching reverence, patience, and mindfulness. And as we whisper farewell to frozen horizons, we carry with us the memory of mammoths, glaciers, and vast, silent plains, a gentle meditation on endings and continuity, a tender invitation to dream with the past while walking softly in the present. May the whispers of ancient ice and vanished giants rest gently in your thoughts, carrying you into calm reflection and serene dreams. And for more journeys across frozen horizons and cosmic time, subscribe to Cosmic Sleep Science and let the echoes of the Ice Age guide you into rest.